The plasma cutter glowed blue-white in the darkness of the maintenance tunnel. Minho held it steady as he cut through the shielding around a thick power cable. Sparks flew, illuminating Thirol's worried face behind him. The Valerian engineer held a portable light and watched with a mixture of fascination and horror. "You are cutting the main reactor feed line," Thirol said. "If you make a mistake, the energy discharge could vaporize both of us. Then I will not make a mistake." Minho's hands did not shake. He had done this kind of work 100 times on colony ships, though never with this much power running through the cables. The cut was clean and precise. When he finished, 2 exposed cable ends hung in the tunnel, still crackling with residual energy. "Now the life support feed line," Minho said. He crawled 3 meters forward to where another cable ran along the tunnel ceiling. This one was thinner, color-coded green. He cut into it the same way, exposing fresh copper-like metal underneath. "Hand me the magnetic clamps," he ordered. Thirol passed him 2 heavy devices. Minho attached 1 clamp to each exposed cable end. Then he took a thick piece of spare cable from his belt and connected the clamps together, creating a direct bridge from the reactor to life support. It was crude, inelegant, and completely bypassed every safety system the Valerians had designed. "This is insane," Thirol whispered. "You are sending unregulated reactor power directly into life support. The system is designed to receive filtered, controlled energy. This could overload every pump and destroy them all. Or it could make them work," Minho said. He wrapped the connection with insulation material torn from entertainment system wiring. "The pumps are built tough. They can handle more power than they usually get. We will see." He reached for the manual lever that would close the circuit. Before pulling it, he looked back at Thirol. "You should go back to the bridge. If this explodes, at least you will survive. If this explodes, the bridge will not be much safer." Thirol moved closer instead of leaving. "Besides, I want to see if your human madness actually works." Minho smiled, then pulled the lever. For 1 horrible second, nothing happened. Then the connection sparked and glowed. Power flowed through the crude bridge Minho had created. Somewhere deeper in the ship, machinery that had been silent for 15 minutes roared back to life. The sound of pumps working filled the tunnel. Air began to move. On the bridge, Commander Vexnor stared at his console in disbelief. The life support indicators, which had been dead, flickered and came online. They showed warnings and errors everywhere. The system was running completely outside normal parameters, but it was running. Fresh air began flowing through the vents. "It worked," Arieth breathed. "The human actually made it work." In the maintenance tunnel, Minho was already moving. "Life support is good for now. Next problem, the reactor." They crawled through the narrow passages, following the schematic on Thirol's datapad. The temperature was climbing. Minho could feel the heat radiating through the metal walls. His shirt stuck to his back with sweat. Warning alarms still echoed through the ship, but at least people could breathe while they waited to either be saved or to be vaporized by a reactor explosion. "The reactor chamber is through that hatch," Thirol said, pointing ahead. A heavy circular door blocked their path. Warning symbols covered it, universal signs that meant danger and death. Minho studied the door. "How do I open it?" "There is a manual release, but Minho, you cannot go in there. The radiation will kill you." "How long do we have before the reactor explodes?" Thirol checked his pad. 23 minutes. "Maybe less. And if it explodes?" "Everyone dies. The ship will be torn apart. Then I have to go in." Minho found the manual release, a wheel that looked like it had never been used. He grabbed it with both hands and turned. It was stiff, but it moved. The wheel spun, and heavy locking bolts retracted with deep metallic sounds. "Wait." Thirol grabbed his arm. "At least let me tell you what you need to do. The emergency coolant valves are on the north wall of the chamber. They are marked with blue symbols. You need to turn them counterclockwise. All 6 of them. That will dump the reserve coolant into the reactor core and slow the reaction. 6 valves, blue symbols, counterclockwise." "Got it." "The valves will be stiff. They require significant force. And Minho, you will feel sick almost immediately. The radiation will attack your cells. You will want to vomit. Your vision might blur. Do not stop. Turn all 6 valves or this means nothing." Minho nodded. He pulled the door open. Heat and light poured out, along with an invisible wave of radiation that made his skin tingle. The reactor chamber was huge, and in its center, a cylindrical core glowed with angry orange light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. He stepped inside. The heat was incredible. It felt like standing next to a fire. Minho's eyes watered immediately. He forced himself to move forward, scanning the walls for the blue symbols Thirol described. There, he saw them. 6 valve wheels arranged in a circle around the chamber. Minho ran to the first valve and grabbed the wheel. He turned it counterclockwise. The wheel fought him, resisting. He put all his strength into it. The muscles in his arms burned. Finally, the wheel moved. Once, twice, 3 full rotations before it locked into place. His stomach churned. Nausea hit him like a wave. The radiation was already working through his body, breaking down cells, destroying tissue. He ignored it and moved to the second valve. This one was even stiffer. Sweat poured down his face. His vision started to blur around the edges. He turned the wheel, counting rotations. 1, 2, 3, done, third valve. His hands were shaking now. The nausea was worse. He could taste metal in his mouth. Turn, 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 done, fourth valve. His muscles felt weak. Every movement took enormous effort. The chamber seemed to be spinning. Turn, 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 done, fifth valve. He was not sure he could finish. His vision was narrowing like looking through a tunnel. His hands barely worked, but he grabbed the wheel and turned it. The metal bit into his palms. Turn, 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 done, sixth valve. The last one. Minho could barely stand. He stumbled toward it, his legs refusing to cooperate properly. He grabbed the wheel with both hands and pulled with everything he had left. It would not move. He pulled harder. Nothing. The valve was completely stuck. Come on, he whispered. Come on. He braced his feet against the wall and pulled. His muscles screamed. His vision was almost completely dark now. But the valve moved, just a little, then more. He kept pulling, turning, fighting. 1 rotation, 2 rotations, 3 rotations. The valve locked into place. All 6 valves were open. Deep in the reactor core, coolant flooded the reaction chamber. The angry orange glow began to fade to red, then to dull amber. The temperature started to drop. The reactor was stabilizing. Minho collapsed. He lay on the chamber floor, unable to move. He had done it. The ship was not going to explode. People were not going to die. The chamber door burst open. Thirol rushed in, followed by 2 other crew members. They grabbed Minho and dragged him out of the chamber. They pulled him through the maintenance tunnel, onto the bridge, into the open air. Commander Vexnor stared down at him. The reactor temperature is dropping. The core is stable. You saved us. Minho tried to speak, but only managed a weak smile. Everything hurt. His body was damaged in ways that would take weeks to heal if he was lucky. Medical team, Vexnor shouted. Get him to the medical bay immediately. As crew members lifted him onto a medical stretcher, Minho looked at Thirol. Did it work? He asked weakly. Thirol's 4 eyes were all focused on him and they were wet with tears. Yes, my friend, it worked. You insane, brilliant human. It worked. The alarm started as a low hum that Minho barely noticed. He was deep into a section about emergency power distribution when the sound grew louder. Around him, other passengers looked up from their activities. The hum became a wail. Red lights flashed along the ceiling. The ship lurched violently to one side, throwing passengers from their seats. Minho grabbed the armrest and held on tight. His datapad flew across the aisle and smashed against the wall. Screams filled the air as the ship shook again. Then everything went dark. For 3 long seconds there was complete blackness and complete silence, except for the frightened cries of passengers. Then emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in a dim red glow. The alarm continued its awful sound. Everyone remain calm. A crew member's voice came over the speakers, but even through the translator, Minho could hear the panic in it. We have experienced a systems malfunction. Please stay in your seats. Thirol stumbled across the aisle, his 4 eyes wide with terror. That should not be possible, he whispered. The backups should have engaged. The secondary systems should have activated. Another violent shake ran through the ship. The red emergency lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, Minho heard a deep boom like thunder inside metal walls. What was that? A passenger shouted. The reactor, Thirol said, his voice hollow. Something is wrong with the reactor. Minho unbuckled his safety harness and stood up. His years on unstable colony ships had taught him to keep his balance even when the floor moved. He made his way to the window and looked out. The stretched lines of hyperspace were gone. Instead, he saw normal stars and a strange purple cloud of something in the distance. We dropped out of hyperspace, he said. Thirol joined him at the window. When the Valerian saw the purple cloud, he made a sound of pure horror. Dark matter pocket, he breathed. We flew through a dark matter pocket. What does that mean? Minho asked. It means we are dead, Thirol said simply. Dark matter pockets are so rare that most pilots never see one in their entire careers. They tear apart hyperspace fields. They overload energy systems. They destroy ships. As if to confirm his words, another alarm joined the first. Then another. The ship shuddered continuously now, like it was coming apart from the inside. Crew members ran past the passenger deck heading toward the bridge. Their faces showed pure panic. Commander Vexnor's voice came over the speakers. He spoke slowly, trying to sound calm, but Minho could hear him struggling. Attention all passengers and crew. We have encountered an unprecedented situation. A dark matter surge has damaged our primary systems. We are working to restore functionality. Please remain calm and stay in your designated areas. Damage the primary systems? Thayerl laughed, but it was not a happy sound. He means they are destroyed. And if the primary systems are gone, the backup systems take over, Minho finished. You said there are 17 backup systems. Yes, but Thirol pulled out his own datapad and frantically worked on it. His long fingers moved so fast they blurred. Data scrolled across the screen. His face, already gray, seemed to turn even paler. No, oh no. This cannot be. What is it? All 17 backup systems share a common relay node. Thirol looked at Minho with despair in all four eyes. It is a central connection point that links everything together. We designed it that way because it was more efficient. The relay node was built to be indestructible. It was supposed to survive anything. But the dark matter surge destroyed it, Minho said quietly. Yes. Thirol's hands shook. Without the relay node, the backup systems cannot engage. They are all useless. Every single one of them. More explosions sounded through the ship. The emergency lights dimmed even further. The temperature, Minho noticed, was starting to rise. He could feel sweat on his forehead. Life support is failing, Thirol confirmed, checking his datapad. The environmental systems are offline. We have maybe 20 minutes of breathable air left, possibly less. And the reactor. The reactor core is destabilizing. Without the cooling systems, it will go critical in perhaps 40 minutes. Around them, passengers were panicking now. Some were crying. Others were shouting. A few sat frozen in their seats, unable to process what was happening. Crew members tried to maintain order, but they looked just as frightened as everyone else. The speakers crackled to life again. This is Commander Vexnor. I need all passengers to listen carefully. We are evacuating the ship. Please proceed to the nearest escape pod stations. Crew members will guide you. Move quickly, but do not run. Escape pods? Minho asked. Thirol nodded miserably. Small vessels that can hold about 20 beings each. They have their own life support and emergency beacons. They will keep us alive until rescue arrives. How long until rescue arrives? The engineer checked his pad again. We are in an uncharted system. The nearest station is 6 days away at emergency speed. The escape pods have life support for 3 days, maybe 4 if we reduce power to minimum levels. Minho understood immediately. So the escape pods will keep us alive just long enough to die slowly instead of quickly. Yes. Passengers were already moving toward the exits, following crew members who guided them with handheld lights. The pushing and shoving had started. Everyone wanted to get to the pods first, even though it would not matter in the end. Minho stood still, thinking. His mind raced through everything he had read, everything he had learned in his years working on primitive colony ships. Those old vessels had broken down constantly. He had fixed hull breaches with metal plates and welding torches. He had rerouted power through damaged cables using spare parts. He had kept engines running when every computer said they should have exploded. Where is the bridge? He asked. Thirol looked at him with confusion. What? The bridge. Where the commander flies the ship. Where is it? Upper deck, forward section. But why? How do I get there? Minho, there is nothing anyone can do. The systems are destroyed. We need to get to the escape pods. Minho grabbed Thirol's shoulder. You said everything is controlled by computers. Everything is digital and automated. But there must be physical components, right? Actual machines that do the work? Well, yes, of course. The computers control physical systems. Pumps, valves, power conduits, things like that. So if the computers are dead but the physical systems still exist, could someone control them manually? Directly? Thirol's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Theoretically, yes, but that would require... Wait, what are you thinking? I am thinking that maybe everyone is giving up too fast, Minho said. Take me to the bridge. Right now, Another explosion rocked the ship. The emergency lights went out completely for a moment before flickering back on. They had even less time than Thirol estimated. "Please," Minho said. "Just let me look at the systems. If I cannot help, we still have time to reach the escape pods." "But if there is even a small chance..." Thirol stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Follow me, and move fast." They pushed through the crowd of panicking passengers and ran toward the bridge. Kang Minho pressed his thumb against the boarding scanner and waited. The blue light swept across his hand 3 times before the gate opened with a soft hiss. He picked up his single travel bag and walked into the passenger tube that led to the ship. Around him, dozens of different aliens moved in the same direction. A tall creature with purple skin and too many arms brushed past him. 2 small beings that looked like walking crystals chattered in high-pitched voices. Minho had seen many strange things in his 5 years working in space, but he still found himself staring sometimes. The Valerian passenger cruiser was huge. Minho had read about these ships in technical journals. They were famous across the galaxy for being the safest vessels ever built. The Valerians were proud of their engineering. They built ships that never failed, or so they claimed. Minho found his seat in the main passenger deck. It was a simple spot near the window, which was exactly what he wanted. He liked watching the stars. The seat next to him was empty, but across the aisle a Valerian engineer was reviewing something on a data pad. The engineer had the typical features of his species: 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, smooth gray skin, and long fingers that moved incredibly fast. As Minho settled into his seat and pulled out his own reading material, the engineer looked over at him. Most aliens ignored humans. They thought humans were interesting but not particularly special. Humans were tough and could survive in harsh conditions. But they weren't the smartest species or the most advanced. They were just average. "First time on a Valerian cruiser?" the engineer asked. His voice came through a translator device that turned his clicking sounds into words Minho could understand. "Yes," Minho replied. "I usually take cargo ships for work, but I had some time off, so I thought I would try a passenger ship." The engineer smiled, or at least made the expression that Valerians used for smiling. "You made a good choice. This is the Star of Kalara. She is one of the newest ships in the fleet, completely safe. We have 17 different backup systems for everything important. If one system fails, another takes over. If that one fails, another one starts. It goes on and on. 17 backups." Minho raised his eyebrows. "That does sound safe. It is more than safe. It is impossible for this ship to fail." The engineer extended one long hand across the aisle. "My name is Thirol. I work in the engineering section. I helped design some of the backup relay systems." Minho shook his hand. The Valerian's grip was gentle but firm. "I am Minho. I coordinate freight shipments between Earth and the outer colonies." "Ah, logistics work." Thirol nodded. "Important but probably not very exciting." Minho laughed quietly. "No, not very exciting. But I like it. It keeps me moving around, seeing different places." The ship's announcement system came alive, and a smooth voice filled the passenger deck. It spoke in Galactic Common, the language that most species used for communication. "Welcome aboard the Star of Kalara. We will be departing in 10 minutes. Our journey to Andari Station will take 5 standard days. Please remain seated during departure." Through the window, Minho watched the station workers disconnecting the fuel lines and power cables. The massive dock arms slowly pulled away from the ship's hull. In a few minutes, they would jump into hyperspace and the real journey would begin. "What are you reading?" Thirol asked, pointing at the datapad in Minho's hands. Minho felt a little embarrassed. "Just some old technical manuals. Stellar navigation, emergency repair procedures, things like that. It is a hobby. I find it interesting." Thirol's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which Minho had learned meant surprise. "You read technical manuals for fun?" "Most humans I meet prefer entertainment or social activities. I used to work as a systems technician," Minho explained, "back when Earth was first sending colony ships to other worlds. Those ships were not fancy like this one. They broke down all the time. We had to know how to fix anything with whatever materials we had. I guess I never stopped being interested in how things work." "Early colony ships," Thirol said thoughtfully. "I have read about those. Very primitive technology, lots of manual controls and mechanical systems." "Yes, very primitive," Minho agreed. "But they got us where we needed to go." The ship began to move. Minho felt the gentle push as the thrusters fired. Through the window, he watched the station slowly fall away. Other ships moved in the distance, small lights against the black of space. It was beautiful in a way that never got old. The Earl continued talking about the ship's systems. He was clearly proud of his work. He explained how the navigation computer could calculate jumps through hyperspace with perfect accuracy. He described the reactor that powered the ship, how it was designed to run for 30 years without maintenance. He talked about the life support systems that could recycle air and water endlessly. Minho listened politely and asked a few questions. He was genuinely interested. The Valerian technology was impressive. It was so much more advanced than anything humans had built. Everything was automated, controlled by computers, monitored by artificial intelligence. There were no manual controls, no mechanical backups. Everything was digital, integrated, perfect. Do you have any manual override systems? Minho asked at one point. Just in case the computers fail? Thirol laughed, which sounded like wind chimes. Why would we need manual controls? The computers never fail, and even if one computer failed, there are 16 more to take over. Manual controls are for primitive ships. Minho nodded and smiled. That makes sense. The ship jumped into hyperspace, and the stars outside stretched into long lines of light. The journey had begun. Minho went back to reading his technical manuals. Thirol returned to his work. Around them, other passengers talked, slept, or stared out the windows. For 3 days, everything was peaceful. The ship moved smoothly through hyperspace. The crew operated the bridge with calm efficiency. Commander Vexnor and his co-pilot Irieth ran the ship perfectly. Passengers ate in the dining area, exercised in the recreation spaces, and enjoyed the voyage. Minho spent most of his time reading and watching the hyperspace streams through the window. Sometimes he talked with Thirol about engineering. Sometimes he walked through the ship, observing how everything worked. He was just another passenger, just another human making a simple journey across space. He had no idea that in a few hours, everything would change. He had no idea that his quiet hobby and his old experience would become the only thing standing between hundreds of lives and certain death. For now, he was just a traveler, enjoying the ride on the safest ship in the galaxy. 2 hours later, Minho woke up in the medical bay. His whole body ached, but he was alive. A Valerian doctor stood over him, checking displays on medical equipment that Minho had somehow managed to rig with emergency power. You should rest, the doctor said. The radiation damage is severe. You need at least 3 days of treatment. How long was I unconscious? Minho asked. 2 hours and 17 minutes. Minho sat up, ignoring the pain that shot through his muscles. The ship. What is the status? Life support is stable. The reactor is cooled and under control, but we are still stranded. We have no navigation systems, no communications, and very limited thruster control. Commander Vexnor sent a message asking to see you when you woke up. Then I need to go to the bridge, and you need to rest. I will rest when we reach safety. Minho slid off the medical bed. His legs felt like rubber, but they held his weight. How do I get to the bridge from here? The doctor sighed and pointed down a corridor. Minho walked slowly, one hand on the wall for support. Crew members he passed stared at him with expressions he could not quite identify. Respect? Fear? Awe? Maybe all three. On the bridge, Commander Vexnor turned as Minho entered. You should be in medical. So everyone keeps telling me. Minho approached the main console. What is our situation? Vexnor gestured at the dead screens around them. Life support works thanks to your modifications. The reactor is stable. But we have no navigation computer, no autopilot, no communication systems. We restored basic power to the thrusters, but without computer control, they are useless. We are floating in an unknown system with no way to fly and no way to call for help. How far are we from the nearest station? Andari Station is 6 days away at normal travel speed, Irieth answered. But we cannot travel at normal speed. We have no navigation computer to plot a safe course. We cannot even calculate which direction to go. Minho looked out the bridge window at the stars. They looked different from this angle, from this unknown system. But they were still stars, still points of light in the darkness. And where there were stars, there was a way to navigate. We do not need a computer to navigate, he said quietly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. What do you mean? Vexnor asked. Humans navigated by stars for thousands of years before we had computers. Ships on Earth's oceans used stars to cross vast distances. Early space travelers used the same methods before automated systems were invented. Minho pointed at the window. Those stars are our map. We just need to read them. That is impossible, Iriath said. Manual stellar navigation requires complex calculations, precise measurements, and knowledge of star positions. It takes years of training. I know. I did that training. Minho smiled despite the pain in his body. On those primitive colony ships I worked on, the computers failed all the time. We had to know how to navigate manually. I am not an expert, but I know the basics. And basics might be enough. Thiril, who had been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward. What do you need? A telescope or any optical sensors that still work. A way to measure angles between stars. And someone who can do mathematics very, very quickly. Within an hour, they had assembled what Minho needed. The ship's emergency telescope system still functioned on local power. Thiril modified a data pad to work as an angle measurement tool. Iriath, it turned out, was exceptional at rapid calculations. Minho stood at the telescope studying the stars. He recognized some constellations, patterns that were visible from many parts of the galaxy. Using the telescope, he identified several key stars and measured their positions relative to each other. Write these numbers down, he told Iriath, and began calling out angles and coordinates. For 3 hours he worked. He measured stars, calculated parallax, and slowly built a rough map of their position. It was exhausting work, made harder by his radiation-damaged body. Several times he had to sit down and rest. But each time he got back up and continued. Finally he had what he needed. We are approximately here, he said, marking a position on a star chart that Thiril displayed. Andari Station is in that direction, he pointed. How certain are you? Vexnor asked. Maybe 70% certain. I could be off by a few degrees, but it is better than guessing randomly. And how do you propose we fly there without a navigation computer? Minho turned to look at the manual thruster controls he had created earlier. They were crude, physical levers connected directly to the thruster valves, bypassing all automated systems. I will fly us manually. The bridge fell silent. You cannot be serious, Vexnor said. Flying a ship this size manually? Without computer assistance? That is impossible. Even our most skilled pilots could not do it. Your pilots trained to work with computers, Minho replied. I trained to work without them. On colony ships, when the computers died, someone had to take manual control. I have done this before, just on a smaller scale. This ship masses thousands of tons. The principles are the same. Thrust, momentum, trajectory. It will be slow and it will be difficult, but I can do it. Vexnor and Iriath exchanged glances. Finally, Vexnor nodded. Very well. The ship is yours. Minho approached the manual controls he had built. They were rough and ugly. Levers made from maintenance tools connected by cables to the thruster systems. Nothing like the elegant touch screens and automated systems the Valerians preferred. But they worked. He gripped the main thruster lever and pushed it forward slowly. The ship responded. He felt the vibration through the floor as the engines fired. It was a gentle push, just enough to start them moving. We need to go slow, Minho explained. Without computer correction, every movement must be deliberate. Small adjustments, constant monitoring. It will take us longer than 6 days, maybe 8 or 9 days, but we will get there. And so began the journey. For 3 days straight, Minho stood at his makeshift control station. He barely slept. He ate while standing up, never taking his hands off the controls. Every few hours he checked their position using the stars, calculated adjustments, and corrected their course with tiny thruster burns. The crew took turns watching him work. They saw how he read the ship's movements by feeling vibrations through the floor. They watched how he made constant tiny adjustments, sensing changes that their instruments could no longer measure. He flew by instinct and experience, treating the massive vessel like a living thing that needed gentle guidance rather than computer commands. Other crew members tried to help, tried to take over so he could rest. But the manual controls were too intuitive, too dependent on human feel and judgment. Their digitally trained minds could not adapt to the analog nature of the work. On the 4th day, Minho began teaching Iriath how to help. She was a quick learner, and soon she could handle simple course corrections while he rested for short periods. But the complex navigation was still his responsibility. Days passed. The ship crawled through space at a fraction of its normal speed. Passengers who had thought they were going to die Now watch the stars slowly change position. They were moving. They were traveling. The human was flying them home. On the 8th day, Andari Station appeared in the distance. When traffic control hailed them, confused by their lack of automated signals, Commander Vexenor took the communication with pride in his voice. "This is the star of Kalara. We are incoming on manual control. The human is flying." Minho brought the massive ship in slowly and carefully. With no computer assistance, no automated docking systems, he relied entirely on his eyes and his feel for the vessel. Crew members held their breath as the station grew larger. The docking bay opened. Slowly, meter by meter, Minho guided the ship inside. The final docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk. They had made it. Against all odds, they had survived. The bridge was chaos. Commander Vexenor stood at the main console, his 4 hands moving frantically across controls that did nothing. Co-pilot Irieth worked at another station, trying system after system with the same result. Nothing. Dead screens stared back at them. Other crew members shouted reports and suggestions, their voices overlapping into a wall of noise. "Sir, the reactor temperature is rising beyond safe levels. Environmental controls are not responding. I cannot restart the navigation array." Minho and Theral burst through the bridge door. Commander Vexenor turned toward them, his face twisted with stress. "What are you doing here? All passengers should be at the escape pod stations." "Commander, please listen," Theral said quickly. "This human may be able to help." Vexenor looked at Minho as if seeing him for the first time. His expression said everything: disbelief, dismissal, and something close to anger. "A human help us? No offense to your species, but humans are not known for their technical expertise. We need engineers, not passengers." "I am an engineer," Minho said calmly, though his heart was racing. "I worked on Earth's early colony ships for 12 years. I fixed systems that should not have been fixable. I kept ships flying when computers said they were dead." "Earth's colony ships," Vexenor said flatly. "Primitive vessels held together with mechanical parts and hope. This is a Valerian cruiser, the most advanced ship design in the galaxy. They are nothing alike." "You are right," Minho agreed. "They are nothing alike. But right now your advanced ship is broken, and my primitive experience might be the only thing that can save it." Irieth spoke up from her station. "Commander, with respect, what do we have to lose? We have 15 minutes of air left. Letting him try cannot make things worse." Vexenor opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He looked at the dead screens around him, at the red emergency lights, at the crew members who had stopped even trying to restart systems. Finally, he stepped aside. "Fine," he said. "You have 10 minutes. If you cannot help, you go to the escape pods immediately." Minho nodded and approached the main console. He did not try to use the computer controls. Instead, he knelt down and looked underneath the console. "I need to see the physical systems. Can someone show me the maintenance access points?" Theral understood what Minho needed. "This way." They moved to a panel on the wall. Theral pressed a hidden release and the panel swung open, revealing a narrow tunnel that led into the ship's maintenance passages. Minho grabbed a portable light from a storage compartment and climbed inside. Theral followed him. The maintenance tunnel was barely wide enough for one person. Pipes and cables ran along every surface. Some were marked with Valerian writing that Minho could not read, but the basic layout was universal. Power conduits were thick and color-coded. Life support pipes had valves and pressure gauges. Cooling systems had pumps and regulators. "This is the main power distribution junction," Theral explained, pointing to a cluster of heavy cables. "It feeds power from the reactor to all the ship's systems. But without the computer controls, we cannot direct the power anywhere." Minho examined the cables closely. He traced them with his fingers, following their paths. "These cables go to different parts of the ship?" "Yes, that one goes to life support. That one goes to propulsion. That one goes to environmental controls. But they all route through the computer first. The computer decides how much power each system receives." "What if we bypass the computer?" Minho asked. "What if we connect the power cables directly to the systems that need them?" Theral's eyes widened. "That would be extremely dangerous. Without computer regulation, we could send too much power to a system and destroy it, or too little and it would not work at all." "But it is possible?" "Physically possible, yes. But then it is our only option." Minho turned to look at Theral in the dim maintenance light. "I need tools. Plasma cutters, magnetic clamps, anything that can cut through cable shielding and create new connections. And I need power cells." Do you have portable power storage? Emergency power cells, yes. Each crew member carries one, and there are tools in the maintenance lockers. But Minho, even if we could reconnect some systems, we do not have enough time. Life support alone would take hours to restart properly. Then we will not restart it properly. We will restart it primitively. Minho was already moving back toward the bridge. Get me every power cell on this ship. Get me every tool available, and find me the schematics for the life support system, the reactor cooling system, and the navigation thrusters. They all stood frozen for a moment, then suddenly came alive with purpose. I will get what you need. They emerged back onto the bridge. Vexnor looked at them with desperate hope. Well, I have a plan, Minho said. It is dangerous and it might not work, but it is better than the escape pods. What do you need from us? Time and trust. Get your crew to bring me every power cell on this ship. Strip them from personal devices, entertainment systems, anything portable. I need plasma cutting tools and heavy-duty cable clamps. And I need everyone to stay out of my way while I work. Vexnor looked at Iriath, who nodded. He made the decision. Do it. Everyone, you heard the human. Gather power cells and tools. Engineering team, assist him however he needs. Crew members scattered to follow orders. Within minutes, they brought Minho everything he requested. Power cells piled up on the bridge floor. Tools of various types appeared. Thiril displayed ship schematics on a data pad that still had power. Minho studied the schematics quickly. His mind worked through the problem like a puzzle. The Valerian ship was incredibly complex, but underneath all the automation and computer control, it was still just machinery. Pumps moved air and water. Valves opened and closed. Power flowed through cables. If the computers were dead, a person could do what the computers did, but manually, mechanically, primitively. Here's what we are going to do, Minho explained to the crew gathered around him. First, we restore life support. I will create a direct power connection from the reactor to the life support pumps. It will not be regulated or safe, but it will move air through the ship. Second, we cool the reactor. There are emergency coolant valves somewhere in this ship. They exist as a last resort backup. I need to find them and open them manually. The coolant valves are in the reactor chamber, Iriath said, but that chamber is sealed. The radiation levels without shielding would kill anyone who enters. Not immediately, Minho said. How long could someone survive in there? Iriath calculated quickly. Maybe 3 minutes before the radiation dose becomes fatal. 3 minutes is enough to turn a valve. Minho saw the horror on their faces. Do not worry. I will not ask anyone else to do it. But first let me restore life support. How much time do we have left? 9 minutes of breathable air, Thiril reported. Then I need to work fast. Minho grabbed a plasma cutter and headed back into the maintenance tunnel. The crew watched him go, this strange human who thought he could fix what Valerian engineering could not. Their most advanced ship had failed completely, and now their only hope was someone who understood primitive machines. Commander Vexnor stood at his useless console and did something he had never done before. He prayed to whatever forces might be listening that the human knew what he was doing.